Good day, the Honorable Ma'am Annie Rosnidia, and good day, everyone. So, today I would like to review the movie entitled Ayla, the Daughter of War. Before I review this movie, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Lucas William Cooper from Class B PPAPK Regular B. So, let's check it out. The story begins in June 1954, exactly 5 years after the Second World War was on the border between South Korea and North Korea. As in the normal life of some families who live there, they seem calm and live their daily lives happily. But not long after that, their happiness vanished and disappeared because the North Korean army tried to invade to control the South Korean area. More and more, the state of South Korea and North Korea made all countries concerned, including the state of Turkey. A Turkish citizen named Sulaiman, who at the time was called by his superiors to be assigned to join the UN Peace Command Unit, who will be sent to help South Korea as soldier. Sulaiman had to accept the task even though his heart was a bit heavy because he had to leave his lover who he loved so much, his girlfriend named Nouran. Finally, at night, Sulaiman immediately met his lovers to say goodbye and let go of longing. Hearing that Sulaiman was going to war, of course, Nouran was very sad and worried about the emergency there. Nouran was afraid that something unwanted would happen, but Sulaiman said that his departure would not be long and he would always send the news to Nouran. Plus, Sulaiman also promised to marry Nouran after his return from Korea. In the end, they both agreed to take care of their heart during long-distance relationship. While at Sulaiman's house, the father received a telegram message from his son and asked their neighbors to accompany Matt to read it. Doubt his father, the letters contained information that Sulaiman would return to the village and would marry Nimet, the girl who was already betrothed by their family. But when the letter was read, it turned out that the letter contained information that Sulaiman was going to war in Korea. Hearing this, all the family and Nimet were shocked and could only pray for Sulaiman so that things would be fine there, so he could return safely. Arriving in South Korea, Sulaiman and his troops headed for the borders to join the American army, which was indeed the American army who had already been there. Along the way, he also saw a very tense situation because many corpses were strewn to the war, and children were also abandoned because their parents had died. When they arrived at the residence of Sulaiman's soldier, he immediately sent a message to Nouran and his family at home and informed them that he had arrived safely. Sulaiman gave the news that he was fine and asked them not to worry about the condition. Nouran, who read the message, was very happy, including Sulaiman's family was also very relieved. A few days later, Sulaiman received news that the war would end soon, because according to information, the enemy had retreated and left South Korea. One of Sulaiman's friends, Ali, was a little disappointed to hear that because, according to him, they had not done anything and had just finished and felt that they had come to Korea. But after a few minutes, their camp was attacked by several warplanes. All Americans and Turkish troops ran for shelter. In the end, Sulaiman met his commander in a precarious situation. Sulaiman and two of his friends were given a mission by the commander to take him to Unit 9 to ask for help. While in the Turkey, it turned out to receive news that he said the war was going to end soon just got there, so it was a little late. That's how it is. Nuran, who read the letter, was immediately happy because Sulaiman would soon meet she, and Nuran was so happy that she also talked about the wedding dress with his friend. Even though what happened in Korea was the war was not over yet. During his mission trip to Unit 9 to seek help, it turned out that one of the way the situation was getting worse and out of the control because many corpses were lying in the middle of the forest. For fear of the sudden attack, Sulaiman ventured to explore the surrounding area if there were any signs of it. The presence of the enemy, but suddenly Sulaiman was surprised by a little girl who sat alone in the middle of the forest around him. The child was crying, and his parents had been killed. Sulaiman, who saw she, felt sorry for she and tried to take she to a safe place. Not long after that, they arrived at Unit 9. The little girl was brought by Sulaiman for safekeeping. All the soldiers seemed friendly with the little girl. Constrained by the Korean language, they didn't even know who the little girl's name was. Then Ali's friend suggested naming the child after his mother's name. It is just a shame that others' friends said that Ali's mother's name was so old that it didn't look cool like that. Finally, Sulaiman took the initiative to the name of this little girl, Ayla, which means moon. The next day, the soldiers secretly followed the route to avoid the conflict area. But it turned out that the enemy soldier knew of their existence, and the war broke out again. Sulaiman, who at the time was still carrying Ayla, was forced to fight desperately to protect Ayla's life. His friend Ali, who is also a goldsmith, also helped protect them. Even though he had tried to dispel as many enemies as possible, but the attacks came one from after another. When the condition became increasingly urgent and worrying, fortunately, there were South Korean soldiers who came to help and immediately divided the enemies. Through a newspaper, the incident of the attack on the Turkish army had been circulated to Nuran, trying to interfere with Sulaiman's conditions, as well as Sulaiman's families who were at home also felt very tense when they saw this through the newspapers. When this situation was peaceful, Sulaiman was reprimanded for bringing Ayla with the soldiers to the battlefield, which could hinder their performance and also injure Ayla's life. There, Sulaiman also explained the reason if he could not just leave Ayla alone. The next day, Sulaiman and the other soldiers were gathered to be given a word, but suddenly Ayla entered in the middle of the ceremony being carried out, and Ayla instantly approached Sulaiman. The commander from America saw this smiling and gave Sulaiman permission to take care of and to look after Ayla. This happy story Sulaiman conveyed through the message to his families at home and also his lover Nuran. The family who heard the news that Sulaiman was safe and healthy must be calm now. However, Nuran, Sulaiman's lover, was very gloomy because he was jealous of Sulaiman's closeness to Ayla. When he arrived in January 1951, Ayla was always taken with Sulaiman wherever he was on duty. plus the closeness of Sulaiman and Ayla was like a father and daughter. The pity and initially enveloped Sulaiman's mind slowly turned into sincere affection. Not only close to Sulaiman, but also Ayla looks familiar and loved by the other Turkish soldier. And Ayla grew up in the circle of soldiers. In March 1951, the winter had ended. One morning, while they were doing the ceremony, Ayla suddenly entered the middle of the ceremonial field while following every word the commander there said in Turkish. Suddenly surprised the other Turkish soldiers and including Sulaiman, because it was the first time Ayla could speak in Turkish, and it turned out that Ayla understood all the words of commander's orders so far. Since then, in every spare time, Sulaiman and his friends teach Ayla some Turkish until a moment when Sulaiman teaches Ayla some Turkish, Ayla suddenly says Papa words to Sulaiman and immediately hooks Sulaiman. Hearing that he was called Papa Sulaiman, he immediately hugged Ayla tightly and very happy to hear that. One day, his friend Sulaiman named Ali was upset because he got the task of guarding the border area even though he previously planned to go to watch the concert of his idol artist who came to entertain the soldiers, namely Marilyn Monroe. Sulaiman and the other soldiers comforted Ali by promising that they would ask for an exclusive autograph from Marilyn Monroe with a name for Ali and a lip stamp too. Hearing this, Ali was happy and resigned to guard the border. During the concert, because he had promised Ali, Sulaiman tried to attract Marilyn Monroe's attention with Ayla's help. Seeing a cute girl in the middle of the show, Ayla must have been immediately invited to go up on the stage, and she got an autograph and lip stamp for Uncle Ali from Marilyn Monroe. While at Ali's place, he was gloomy because he failed to attend the concert. He also kept looking at the photo of his idol artist and couldn't wait to receive the autograph and lip stamp from Marilyn Monroe that Sulaiman had promised. But suddenly, their area was attacked, and there was a gunshot that grabbed Ali hurt until he died instantly on the spot. Sulaiman, who learned of his friend's death, was devastated because he had not yet had the time to give the photo he promised to Ali. While crying, he placed the bouquet and the photo on Ali's grave. July 1951 today coincided with 1 year of the Turkish army being in South Korea. And one day they were declared from duty because later their duties will be replaced by soldiers from the other countries. Hearing this, Sulaiman felt a dilemma. On the one hand, he had to go home and fulfill his promise to Nuran to marry she, but on the other hand, he also found it hard to leave Ayla, who already considered him as a father. A few days later, his friends began to return one by one to the Turkey. But Sulaiman decided to stay a few more days to take care of Ayla. Sulaiman finally wrote a letter to his girlfriend, Nuran, and also his parents stating that he was delaying his return for some time. This is of course shocked all parties until the one day Sulaiman was informed by his commander that the deadline was only 10 days. Sulaiman also explained that he was worried about Ayla, but the commander immediately explained that Ayla would later be replaced in the school called Ankara, which was a school for children who were victims of the war. There was also a school administrator who assured Sulaiman that they would care for a supervise Ayla as the best they could. The next day, Sulaiman took Ayla to the Ankara school, which would be Ayla's residence. Sulaiman said he wanted to first check the condition of the school, but Sulaiman still found it very difficult to leave Ayla. Especially when he tried to leave, Ayla suddenly came after him. While sobbing and saying that he didn't want to stay, Sulaiman was getting more and more hesitant to let Ayla go. Before deciding to take a ship to Turkey, Sulaiman finally got up the courage to smuggle Ayla into a suitcase so he could go with Sulaiman. During the data check, the data before entering Sulaiman's ship was almost suspected because the suitcase was very large. Sulaiman denied that the suitcase contained gifts for his family in Turkey, and finally the excuse was accepted and passed. But when he walked a few steps, suddenly his friend approached him and said that Ayla was missing from school. Everyone heard this and very surprised and found out that Ayla was smuggled in a suitcase. After Sulaiman's plans to bring Ayla was unsuccessful, his friend convinced him and Ayla would be better off living in Korea, and that one day Sulaiman would be able to come back to visit her. Sulaiman finally had to be sincere and let Ayla go. Sulaiman also promised to come back later to visit Ayla. When Sulaiman arrived in Turkey, Sulaiman met Nuran to propose. She suddenly surprised by the harsh reality that Nuran had married another man. Because Sulaiman did not come home, there Sulaiman felt hit by that the fact. 5 months later, Sulaiman finally complied with his parents' wishes to marry the woman who would be betrothed to Sulaiman, namely Nimet. Because it was not based on the law that Sulaiman did not care about Nimet's existence because his mind was constantly being haunted by Ayla. But because Nimet was originally a kind and patient woman, she tried to understand his husband's feelings. Finally, Nimet invited Sulaiman to talk about Ayla, who had been troubling his mind. There, Sulaiman's heart began to open and immediately told was his anxiety. Unlike his ex Nuran, Nimet seems enthusiastic about hearing his husband's story and ready to help find Ayla's whereabouts. Day after day, month after month, Nimet never gave up on helping Sulaiman to find Ayla's whereabouts whenever there was any information he could get. Nimet always told Sulaiman, until Sulaiman's heart was moved to see his wife's persistence, who was very sincere and caring for him. However, Nimet and Sulaiman's efforts are indeed very difficult because they never know who Ayla's real Korean name is. So that is main obstacle in Ayla's search. Arriving at 47 years old, Sulaiman left Ayla here. Sulaiman and Nimet looked very old, even though his memories and longing for Ayla were still very much attached to his life because Sulaiman has a promise that he had to keep to visit Ayla again. June 2002, Sulaiman was visited by the journalists who want to share his story with Ayla during the war for a documentary movie. And if Sulaiman was willing to tell a reporter, he would promise to help him find Ayla's whereabouts. Hearing this, of course, Sulaiman was very happy and gave all the photos of his memories with Ayla to the reporter. Finally, the reporter researched to serve, even though it was very difficult and conflicting. But their efforts were successful until this reporter received information that Ayla was found and immediately rushed to meet the woman who is considered Ayla. April 2010, exactly 60 years after the war ended, one morning Sulaiman and Nimet were sitting waiting for some in Ankara Park, which used to be where Ayla's school was when it was born. A few moments later, Sulaiman saw a middle-aged woman approaching him. Even though she was very mature and the exact days apart, Sulaiman immediately recognized who he was as well as Ayla, who immediately walked toward her father, the savior of her life. They hugged and cried with tears because they could meet again, a promise that was finally fulfilled after 60 years. So I think that's all for my review on this movie. So I could give the moral value on this movie is to teach us the meaning of waiting and hope that will never be in vain if accompanied by intention, effort, and of course prayer. And this moral value also conveys that love has no limits and does not look at race, religion, ethnicity, or culture. Because initiating a human attitude is the most difficult thing. Humanize humans. The power of love. Believe in yourself. You will be unstoppable. I think that's all for my review today. Thank you very much and thank you for watching. See you in the next video.